Story 1. AITA for ruining at a family dinner because of my golden child sister? Asshole. I, F17, have a younger sister, Emily, F16. Even though they don't say it explicitly, Emily is clearly my parents' favorite child. I can understand why they're proud of Emily. She is a straight-A student, has the lead roles in student theater, swims competitively, is popular at school, and very, very good-looking. I, on the other hand, am probably more plain. I work hard at school, but am not as outgoing or intelligent as Emily, and don't excel at any extracurriculars like she does. My parents always celebrate Emily. We have certificates of her work on the fridge, always have outings and meals to commemorate her achievements, and attend all her swim events and plays. I know my parents love me, but I don't get close to the level of attention, even when I work hard. The other night, we went out with my parents, uncle, aunt, and cousins. We'd just been to one of Emily's shows, and she recently got accepted onto a summer scheme she was wanting to complete. The whole meal revolved around discussing Emily and how proud everyone was of her accomplishments. I don't think I was mentioned once. I'm usually more reserved or just bite my tongue, but midway through the meal I shouted out, "Maybe if you paid more attention to me and not just your golden child, you'd have more things to celebrate." Everyone just went silent, and my mom said we'd discuss this when we got home and not to ruin the meal. Emily looked shocked and close to crying. To say the rest of the meal was awkward would be putting it lightly. When we got home, my parents shouted at me for embarrassing them and said that Emily deserves to be celebrated and that if I did something that merited celebration, I would receive the same treatment. I said how unfair this was and nothing I do gets recognized regardless. Emily joined in and said she works hard and deserves to be recognized for that, and as the older sister, I should grow up and actually work for once if I want her success. I haven't spoken to Emily since then, and my parents are still annoyed at me for ruining the meal. AITA? Story 2. Uninvited to wedding, then reinvited.
Do Igo osoba wzruszająca ramionami o średnio jasnej karnacji.
Relationships/family. A friend that I have known for over 10 years uninvited me to her wedding, then reinvited me.
Do Igo.
Long backstory. We have been semi-close friends for a decade but have been in and out of touch over the past few years as she moved to an area with little to no cell service. However, we have still been friends. She ended her relationship last year and met someone new right away who lives overseas. They were engaged a year later. The man she is marrying is quite wealthy, and she told our group chat, her close friends group chat, that he offered to fly us out to the wedding. After that, she hadn't mentioned it again, nor any further details of the wedding. We received a save the date in early December for their wedding overseas. While she was back in the country at the beginning of January, she had a small engagement party that was a 5-hour journey from my home. I couldn't get childcare and explained that unfortunately I wasn't going to be able to make it, which she seemed very understanding of. I then sent a bottle of champagne to their table with a note from us saying how happy we were for them, etc. After she went back overseas at the end of January, we didn't talk too much until I received a message at the beginning of February asking for my email address to send the official wedding invitation, which she already had since we received a save the date. Anyway, a couple months passed and we still had not received the invitation. The wedding was now 6 weeks away. I tried reaching out multiple times to connect and see how she was doing and regular girl chat to catch up, etc. But she kept dodging me. So eventually at the beginning of March, I sent her a message essentially saying, "Hey, I just wanted to check in about the wedding. We received our save the date, but no invitation. We understand that things change and maybe your guest list has changed. If so, we totally understand, but wanted to let you know that we haven't sent our RSVP because we didn't receive an invitation." She then called me that evening and said they could only fly out a handful of people and her core girlfriends, and it would be better if we came another time. And also that it would be expensive for people to fly there on their own, and we could come if we want, and she would send the invite. The whole conversation just really felt like she didn't want us to come, so I cut the convo short and was polite and said I'm sure it would be beautiful and to send pictures, etc. Today I received a message saying she talked to her fiancé and she really wants me there and she can fly me out for 2 weeks. But not my husband or kids, which I get. So do I go? I feel like I should politely decline and that I was an afterthought. Plus, if I hadn't reached out about not receiving the invitation, I feel like the wedding would have come and gone, and she would have said nothing. What do you think? Update. I spoke with the bride and she was overly apologetic and said she should have handled things differently. She said she hasn't communicated well to anyone and a lot of people are wondering what the details of the wedding are. She said her fiancé initially said to invite all her friends, so she did. But then he showed her the budget and they had to cut down the list. Which I get, but she should have communicated that. She said I'm one of her oldest friends and her fiancé couldn't believe she didn't invite me and insisted I be there. I feel like if she felt that way too, I would have been in the first round of invites. She said she was nervous to ask him to invite more people because he was the one paying for it. So yeah, I dunno. The other caveat is that the wedding is a 19-hour flight away and on a farm in the middle of nowhere. I would likely only go for 1 week since 2 weeks is too long to be away from my young kids. Story 3. I've lied again to my parents about college for the past 2 semesters. I signed up for classes and my parents have been paying for them for the last 2 semesters. They think I've been going to my classes and getting decent grades due to me lying whenever they ask about it and making them believe in a completely false reality. I have withdrawn from every class the last 2 semesters with no refund, and their money has gone completely down the drain because of me. My parents would have been more understanding if I was honest from the beginning, but now I feel like I'm in too deep. I know this all is pathetic, but I just want to take the easy route and run away and lose contact. I don't know why I can't bring myself to talk to my parents. I don't know what to do. I legitimately don't have any excuses for myself and my behavior. I can't put any blame on anxiety or depression. I've been feeling pretty well for the past year of pushing guilt aside and only caring about short-term happiness. It's not even the first time I've done this. When I first went to college when I was 17, I also failed some classes 1 semester. And a year later I failed all my classes. They found out those times and did what they could to help, which included some very expensive therapy. However, this is the 3rd time I've done this and the 3rd time I was dishonest to my parents, and I believe it's unforgivable. I know I need to come clean about this, but I want to take an easy way out again. I want to start using harder drugs so I at least have some sort of reason for being terrible. I don't know what to do. Edit. Thank you for all of your comments. It was hard to stomach reading most of them and to come to terms with the shame I've been feeling. Hearing your guys' advice was extremely helpful and gave me a lot of courage to finally call my mom and come clean to her about all the lying and the betraying I've done to her. I think things are going to be okay. I know it will take a long time to deserve her forgiveness and trust again, but I am hopeful I can change. My plan now is to go back home for a bit, work, and then try to enlist in the military to learn discipline and have gratitude for all that I have been given. I know I will spend a long time feeling terribly guilty and an equally long time trying to make it up to my parents. Story 4. Coworker thinks she can bully and throw a fit because she's twice my age. I, 23F, work night shift as a CNA in a nursing home. Why the other CNA I worked with last night felt the need to target me last night as it was my first time ever working with her. She's been there for only a couple weeks, but she very obviously singled me out looking for a problem. I am a hard worker and have zero interest in any kind of drama. I come to work to take care of my pytents and get paid, then I leave. I may be overly bothered by this because I have anger problems that I work hard on keeping in control due to past trauma, and that I have to keep it together to be successful for my dream career, so I just need to vent. This lady comes in a few minutes after me and I don't recognize her, so I go out of my way to be helpful and ask her if she's familiar with the pytents she's assigned to, and then give her a rundown of the pytents and their needs and let her know where I'll be if she needs help. After I finish checking on all my people I'm assigned to take care of for the night, I sit down and start taking notes for a class I'm taking, and she comes up and asks for help repositioning a pytent in bed that can't move on her own, so I drop what I'm doing and go to help her. To reposition a pytent, you first use the bed remote to lift the bed up to above your waist so that you don't hurt your back bending over, and then you get someone on each side of the bed to lift them up and turn them and such. We get to the ladies' room and I grab the bed remote and start lifting it up, but it pauses for a second because of a shortage in the wires. Cheap facility. So it takes me a little more than 2 seconds to reposition it to start lifting the bed some more, and the other CNA raises her voice at me while bobbing her head around with attitude that the bed needs to be way higher than that, and I explained to her that I was trying to lift the bed up, but it paused for a second and that I know how to do it. She then goes off on me about what I am and am not allowed to say to her, and acting so aggressive over nothing that even the pytent and her roommate are looking at her confused and concerned. I didn't want to feed into her obvious attempts to make a scene, so I shrug it off and finish helping her with repositioning the lady, then turn around and walk out of the room and go back to the nurse's station. Moments later, I get up to answer a call light. Then, when I am walking back to the nurse's station, the other CNA is standing there, and before I make it back to my seat, she starts yelling at me about how she is 47 years old and a 20-year-old vet, and that I better watch my mouth, and goes on and brings up my age several times, and how she even has kids older than me, and was saying stuff like, "Ick, what your problem is, you will respect me." I literally did not disrespect this woman once, and even went out my way to be nice to her, and blah blah blah. The whole time I kept repeating that I'm not gonna argue with her, I'm just here to do my job, and I don't care about her age or her work experience. I told her just stop, I'm not arguing with you multiple times, but eventually just walked away because I felt myself starting to shake and my heart start to race, and I didn't want to go off and regret it later. Like I said, I have anger issues, so I get out of sight and lock myself in a bathroom, shaking, trying to catch my breath while my heart is racing and pounding. I was nearly in tears because this woman was almost in my face about something stupid, and I couldn't blow TF up about it, and I wanted to so bad. I get myself together, and once I stop shaking, I walk out to the nurse's station, up to the nurse who witnessed it all, and told her what happened in the PI-tense room. Meanwhile, I can hear the other CNA talking loud AF to the other nurse on all the way down the other hall about how I didn't even do anything to that little white girl. All I did was ask for help with Mrs. PI-tense's name, and she gave me attitude about how she knows what she's doing, like I haven't been doing this for 20 years, blah blah blah, even though I had actually dropped what I was doing to help her with zero complaints. Then, for the rest of the shift, she was starting me down and gossiping with the other nurse, but would get quiet and try to listen to what I would say to my nurse, even though it was all work-related. I'm thinking about asking the Don, pretty much like a supervisor to nursing staff, to watch the camera at the nurse's station so they can see how she jumped down my throat when I was minding my own business, but I don't want to cause more problems. I probably sound ridiculous for getting so worked up over someone acting like a child, but it really had me struggling to hold back.